Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I'm here with my guest, Ray John. How you doing, Ray?
Good. How are you, RJ? It's so good to be here. You're a big guy. As far as the size of your body and also your business, right? So,
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being on here. We met last week at the Family Mastermind. So excited to
yeah.
have you on here and share your story. I think it's going to be inspiring for people to hear. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you're currently doing in real estate investing right now.
I do land flipping. Specifically, I buy and sell infill lots, and infill lots is just in the cities. You see a lot of houses. In the middle of it, there's land. That's what
Right.
I do. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to the beginning because I know you have a story to tell here. So, first and foremost, how did you get to the United States and kind of tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I just came from Mexico Wall. No, just kidding. I I went I went from the university, and then I started to go to university, but it wasn't my 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 specialty, I guess. I failed two universities, so I started to do business inside the school, and I became homeless. But after 3 months, I was making about $10,000 a month already.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that that was quick. How'd you go from homeless to be able to make $10,000 a month?
Yeah, it was hard. I was living in the car, and I was in Hawaii though. To be a homeless is pretty easy there. You go
Yeah,
to the beach and take shower. That's it, right? And yeah, I mean, if I am homeless, I would move to Hawaii first, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and then I start to flip all this free stuff, right? And grab the things on the Craigslist, Facebook. There's people giving off free stuff. I just flip them, and then I flip cars, right? So that's how I got started.
So you've always been a flipper, no matter what. You're flipping something, free stuff, cars. What
Absolutely.
eventually led you to real estate?
So I've been trying real estate for a long time. So I took the profit from cars, flipping, and then I tried different niches, right? I tried houses, and then locally in Hawaii, it was hard to do. And then I do virtual houses. I wasn't smart enough to figure it out like you. You do a virtual flipping houses, right? And then I tried that out. That didn't work very well for me. And then I started to do apartments, right? So all these things took me about 6 years, about 250 to 300,000 in mentorship. All I paid all these guys, and eventually I started to do land flipping when I was in Hawaii, and that clicked. And everything else just come after that.
What do you think about single families and multifamily? What about that didn't work for you? What was it like the rehab costs? Was it just talking to sellers? What about it was difficult for you?
I guess I just couldn't figure out all the different pieces and put them together. And virtual wholesaling, if you don't have a big team in that location, it will be very hard to do, right? So
Right.
I think mainly is the mental block. For you it's easy because you think it's easy, you figured out how to do it. But for me, it was extremely hard. I was like lost, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times whatever we just aren't accustomed to becomes like you said, this mental roadblock. And I have a lot of questions to you about the land that you're doing because I think that is something that is not taught enough, and it can become a roadblock for people that are used to doing single family homes, right? We're
Mm,
so used to having to do these walkthroughs and get pictures and understand the rehab costs, and you're like, hey man, well, I'm picking up this land and I'm able to move it pretty quickly. That can be a roadblock for us. So
absolutely.
what was it that like led you to vacant land? Because that's you went from hey trying single family to multifamily and then back to dirt. What led you to that? Was it a mentor of yours or something like that that kind of led you back to that?
Yeah, I paid a guy 70,000 to teach me how to do land. And he taught me nothing but to flip land on terms, meaning you buy a land and sell on terms. That was
Right.
that was exactly what I hate the most. Right. So I was like, is there a better way that I can get my money back? I asked for a refund. That was a no. And and then I was like, I gotta better get my money back. So what I did was I go to his group, and I just asked them, what area do you guys want to buy land, right? Because there's a lot of term investor guys, right? So what I did was I find out the area, I start to market to those areas, and then I buy a land for 1,000, sell them to 2,500, 3 grand. I did about 250 of them the first year, just doing that.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's a lot of transactions right there. Uh,
yeah.
so mainly in the cities, infill lots, like you said, those are the lots in between other buildings inside the city areas. But you weren't doing it on terms. These were all cash transactions. Is that correct?
Oh, cash. Yeah, I like the feeling of cash, the smell of it. If I want to collect 100, if I were to collect $150 per month selling a land, that's not what I want to do. And there's a lot of tire kickers too. The people ask you, "Is this land available?" You say yes, and they are not available anymore. Right? They're gone.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
You know.
So let's go to specifically the what you're doing right now with the infill lots. Is it is there a specific type of marketing that you're doing to get these, or is it the same kind of marketing that we're all doing with like direct mail, cold calling, texting, things like that? Is that still does that work with these infill lots?
Absolutely. So I do direct mail, but the difference is I do direct mail with an offer. So I offer about 40 to 55% on the value of the land. And when people get back to me, I'll negotiate again. So that's like a double kill, right? So, and typically we can get land super cheap, and when we actually sell it, we tend to sell it cheaper than anybody else as well. So that's why it's easy for me to sell it. I hear people all the time. They say I don't do land flipping because it's easy to buy, hard to sell. I
Yep.
think I think they just don't know how to do it, right?
So how are you coming up with the offer amount prior to sending the marketing? I mean, is there a system that does that for you? Is it based off the tax assessed value, or how are you coming up with that?
Yeah, it's a little bit effort. It's take about 2 hours to make a list that has about 5,000 or 10,000 names. I explained that specifically with Joe McCall. We have a Joe McCall um, podcast together, and then I explained to him how to do it. But it's basically uh, based on subdivisions. So we figure out what is a sold price average for that particular subdivision, and then we offer about 40 to 55%.
Gotcha. Of
Yeah.
that sold price. And then when you're selling it, are you still selling it at a discount from that sold price, or is that what you're selling it for?
Yeah, we offer 40 to 55%, and then we negotiate. And then if the land worth 10,000 or everybody else is selling for 10,000, I would just post it for 8,000.
Nice.
Right. Yeah.
And are you specifically trying to dispo these deals to other investors, or even particular like maybe an owner occupant that wants to build on the vacant land?
Yeah, so that's what I love about land. When I actually sell it, I don't need to worry about it, nothing, because I can just give it to the realtor, and the realtor will sell it for me. And mainly, the majority of the buyers are builders, and market selection is very important. You have to find a markets that more people moving in is growing, and there's a lot of end buyers, and that's why I love land flipping. You can do it multiple markets at the same time,
Right.
without worry about the roof, the toilet.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how are you determining those markets though? Because there's a lot of markets across the United States that are growing. How are you saying, hey, these are the specific subdivisions that we want to go into?
Yeah, that's a awesome question. So let's say you live in Dallas, right? So I would check out what is a major city in the states. Major city means if I talk about Texas, you think about Dallas, right? You think
Right.
about Houston, you think about Austin. So first of all, we do not go to those markets. Those markets are highly competitive, and you have to mail more. You have to offer a lot more to get a deal. And so from then we find a major growing city, and then we go outside about 30 minutes to 2 hours away, and that's the range. And
Right.
then we want to find out a particular county that in the last 3 months it has about more than 40 to 50 sold particular for land, and that's our goal to find a county. So, for example, Dallas County, outside there's Henderson County, there is other counties, I forgot the name, but I
Right.
just finished a deal in Henderson County, so not too far from Dallas, but it's easy to sell as well.
Gotcha. So kind of going out in those little bit rural in comparison to, Dallas proper, right?
Yeah.
That those are kind of the ideal places. Like for example, here in Fort Worth, I'm thinking of like Parker County where Weatherford is, where it's
Mm.
like a 30-minute drive to downtown Fort Worth. Is that kind of the ideal place where it's growing a little bit, but it's just a little bit outside of the major city?
Absolutely. And we want those areas not too rural either, because the complete rural area sometimes is hard to do the comparables. Nobody is selling. You don't know how much the land is worth. So that might be a risk.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when you say the realtor is selling it, are you listing it on the MLS or are they just like presenting it in front of their known buyer base?
They do that first, and then if nobody buys, we just post on the MLS. Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I actually buy the land myself without the contract. I don't do wholesaling. I just buy and sell because I think cash has power. That's the first thing. And also, if you have a lot of markets, that's hard to build a cash buyer list for each market. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, some of my experiences with vacant land in the past, like I just say the past 12 months and see if this is a thing that you've kind of encountered. I've seen a lot of, well, I know of four where vacant land deals where the seller was fake. It was a fraud. Is that something that you're seeing is becoming more and more prevalent with vacant land where people are pretending to own the land, but they're not even the seller? They don't even own it. Is that something that you're seeing?
I don't see that a lot, but there was some. And I was talking to a guy, and his name is Manu, and his dad name is exactly the same as his.
Yeah.
So I was like, is there a problem here? Because on the deed, it says he bought it in 1961, and this guy is clearly like 30 years old.
Right.
And and maybe he misreport his age. But I said, this kind of looked like sketchy. So I went to a title company and have them close it. And surprisingly, they close on it. And I tried to sell it, and then the buyer agent find out this same problem, and he said, we cannot sell this land because there's a problem. So I went back to the title company. We find out the underwriter in the title company didn't even catch that.
Right.
So I got my title policy there and I got my money back. But the thing is, there's people out there trying to scam people. So there are two ways people normally scam you. The first one is they try to be the seller, and second one is they try to pretend they are the title company. And let's say an agent in the title company, when it's time to close, the agent go home and send you another different routing number for you to wire the fund.
Yeah.
So it's extremely important before you close the deal, call the title company, make sure that's not a cell phone, it's an office phone. And you talk to the owner or the manager there and make sure that the wiring instruction is clear,
Yeah, what we've run into was the pretending to be the seller. Some of these were people like inbound leads that came to us. So that's kind of a difference between outbound and inbound marketing, right? You're doing outbound with direct mail, you're reaching out to the sellers. I think with us running like PPC ads, Facebook ads, things like that, a little bit more prevalent for the scams where people are like, hey, yeah, I own this 5 acres over here in Fort Worth, Texas. Do you want to buy it? And they don't even own it. I don't know how they think they're going to get away with it because we close everything through a title company. I think they're just
Mm.
hoping that we're not going to, do the checks and balances and do it the right way. Now do you run into scenarios? Because I know this is vacant land is prevalent for being sold on terms. Do you run into that where people only want to sell on terms and it's kind of a struggle for you to want to do the deal in cash? Or is that not an issue whatsoever?
It's not an issue because I don't buy them, so that's that's easy, right?
I
Yeah.
love it.
So there are three things related to real estate. There's equity, how much the landowner want to sell the land for. If they want more equity, there's no profit for you, right? And there is also speed, how fast the landowner want to close the deal, and there is also cash, how the landowner prefer to get paid. So there are three things. Typically, the landowner can only get two of them, not all three of them. So what we typically focus on the sellers is to try to find sellers who actually want to sell the land fast with cash. So then we provide a solution that we can close the deal very fast with cash, and then you better give me some equity. So if they want terms, and typically that's not what we focus on.
Gotcha. What
Yeah.
about like the bigger land deals where it's not an infill land or infill lot? Are you just passing on those where it's like someone says, "Hey, I don't want to sell that quarter acre lot, but I've got 10 acres." Is that something that you're moving into, or are you kind of just very hedgehog focused on I'm only doing the infill lots?
Yeah, I try to buy them, and first of all, I try to see if there's similar lots sold nearby. Let's say there's a land 10 acres nearby sold for 100,000. Maybe I'll offer half of that, right, and see if the seller want to sell it. And the more the acre goes, let's say the bigger the acreage, typically the average acre per value drop as well, right? So we try to find if there's similar lot, because land I don't want to gamble, and I want to make sure that I make a profit. So we highly focus on if there's similar lot sold nearby.
Gotcha. Are you keeping any of the land, or are you only flipping it?
I keep some of the best ones, and also the best areas. So, for example, I live in Jacksonville. When I first moved here, it was growing, but still is growing very fast in the recent 2 or 3 years. So when I first came here about 2 years ago, I bought all this land for about half of the value by then. But right now, the value tripled. So I got at least 600% return on there, right? So that's why I go to areas I find out is growing very fast, like Jacksonville, not like to Dallas there yet, right?
Right.
So I just keep them.
What is like the average? Like you, let's just use the Jacksonville lots that you're talking about right there. What is like the average value of that lot that you're buying right there? Because maybe someone doesn't know, and you're talking about, hey, you're using your own cash to take this down. Is it something that, hey, if someone's sitting on like $10,000, $15,000 that they could get started? What is like the prices we're talking about?
Absolutely. The first land I bought there was in Jacksonville is 2,500. You know, now the land worth about 25 grand, right? So you can get started with land. The barrier of entry is very low, right? And my first land, I bought it for 1,000, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge increase in value. Is that something you're seeing across the United States, or is that specific only to Jacksonville?
Yeah, that's why I love America. So America's economy is divided, meaning every state seem to be different. And every state is no better than other states. You cannot say Texas is better than Florida. Maybe for you it is, right? But but just look at equally. That's why people say is we have freedom here. But let's say I'm from China. In China, there's only some cities that are super majority, like super popular, like Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and if you go to other small cities, it's hard to grow, right? But in the States, for me, when I teach my students, when you pick a market, make sure that there are more people moving in that states than moving out. I probably won't go to New York to try to find the land, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are losing, like going outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those I not to get political on it, but I do see a lot of the growing states, the markets that you're talking about are the conservative states, and a lot
Mhm.
of the states that are struggling are those liberal states. I mean, even in the markets that, we work in all 50 states, but California, New York, New Jersey, these are some of the most difficult locations to even get a transaction across the finish line.
Yeah.
Some of them being attorney states, that is a problem that we're dealing with. So I absolutely agree, especially if you're going to have like this niche down of a strategy. You have the opportunity to go to so many markets that are just amazing to work in, like you're talking about Florida or Texas, two of
Mhm.
our highest volume states of all time. Texas being number one and Florida being the fourth highest volume state that we've ever done deals. So
Absolutely.
you're right. I do love Texas more than Florida, but it's because that's where I live. Florida being a great market for us. I'm surprised though that Jacksonville, because the house, like an actual house value, is not that high in Jacksonville. It's one of the lower
Yeah.
uh valued markets in the state of Florida. What do you think is causing the rise in the value of the land there? Is it just, hey, we're running out and that's why it's so valuable?
All real estate is the same. It follows people, right? And people followed by employment, right? And
Yeah.
in Jacksonville, we have I think, number top three, the population here. We have over 1 million people here, right? So a lot more people coming in. Of course, they want to find a house, and the builder want to build a house, and then they didn't need a land, right? So here you go. And another thing I was thinking when you're talking is about attorney states, right? So I would be really careful to pick a cheaper markets to flip land in attorney states. So I had just closed 2 deals. I was so proud of it, but now I'm not so proud. So I bought the land for $1 in Georgia.
Yep.
What can you lose on $1, right? After all the attorney fee, it was 1,900.
Right.
It's like, all these fees add up. So don't choose a cheap markets in attorney states. Otherwise, you might get screwed by the attorney fees.
Yeah, and even on those kind of things, it's like, well, what is the reason why I'm buying something for $1? Right? There has to be that's like an alarming number where it's like, there's a reason why someone's giving me this for $1. You know, it's like when
Absolutely.
this is my Achilles heel right here. I talked to a seller and they're like, I'll sell you my house for 5,000. That's like my magic number where I feel like 5,000 is such a low number, you can't really negotiate them down. And those are
Mhm.
always the deals that are the hardest to sell because it's like, no, there was a reason why they were trying to give you that for $5,000.
Absolutely.
So what? I guess let me ask you this: with what you're doing right now, what is like your end goal with your strategy? Is it to eventually to own a bunch of land? Is it just to continue doing what you're doing for the next 10, 15 years? Like, kind of walk me through what your vision is moving forward for you.
Yeah, my vision is very simple: to own a whole bunch of money. Right? So for me, land flipping is like a cash cow for me. It's not a way to build cash flow.
Right,
Because you can barely rent it out. Who will rent a land, right?
right.
Very very few people do. So I would take the cash and then I invest in multifamily. That's my goal. So multifamily, you buy a building, you have a lot of doors inside, and eventually you get financial freedom from that, right? So if you try to build a cash flow out of land, that'll be extremely hard. You know.
So are you partnering with someone that does multifamily, or are you going to venture out in that and give it a swing for a second time to try to do it yourself?
Yeah, so I always try to pay to get advice first, right? So there's a guy in our group. His name is Gino,
Yeah.
Jake and Gino. He just joined the group. and I just pay him, and I'm gonna learn that game in November. So I'm gonna just see if I can dominate him. Maybe replace him. Just kidding.
I
Just
love it.
get some multifamily there. Yeah.
Are you doing all of this by yourself, or have you built out a team at this point?
I have a big team. I have one guy working for me in somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I pay him $2 an hour. That's about it. So land flipping is extremely easy. You don't need a big team,
Right.
And I have one VA. That's about it.
So you send the mail out, 50% of the value. They call you back. And then at that point in time, you're just negotiating. You pretty much don't even have to look it up because hey, if you offered 5 grand, the land is worth 10. So you don't even have to look it up. You're just negotiating at that point based off knowing it's worth 10 grand, right?
Yeah. So when I negotiate, I try to get the best I can. I don't look at the land value anymore, right? So that's what I tell people all the time. When you negotiate, don't have a number in mind, because with houses there's a mile number, maximum allowable offer.
Yep.
But for land, you just try to do the best you can. Maybe you can get the land surprising low. Maybe even better than 20% of the value, right?
Yeah, because if you're basing it off of tax assessed value, I mean, to be honest with you, that's normally low. So you're getting it if you're
Absolutely.
getting it less than that, I mean, like you said, you could be getting it for 20-25% of its actual value.
Yeah.
I love land deals like that where hey, you're negotiating, you already know you're in a winning position at that point in time.
Yeah,
Uh,
because a lot of people has a lot of emotional attachment with houses, but not with land. Sometimes they do have emotional attachment towards their land, but it's negative, right? I hate my land, right? Those kind of emotions.
Exactly. How long? I got a question for you because you're very to the point. You remind me of me a little bit in that regard. Um, when you're on the phone with a seller and you're negotiating this, how long do you think your conversations are? Because there's not a whole lot to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Are your conversations pretty quick as far as closing deals?
Yeah, you are the master of it. I watch you talking to sellers all the time. I think I should start doing that as well. But I typically try to stay under 10 to 20 minutes. I want to find
Yeah,
how motivated they are, right? If they're not motivated to sell the land, I'll see you later, right? But I don't have time, right? If you're motivated, let's talk about family first,
I love it. I love it,
right?
man.
Yeah.
So I mean, you go to school, you become homeless. Sounds like you're only homeless for like 3 weeks, but now you're raking into cash. You said, "Hey, land flipping's become a cash cow." You're going to get into multifamily. I mean, is that something that you see yourself? Because I used to ask this
Mm.
question all the time, like, "Hey, in 5 years, where do you want to be?" You still want to be land flipping 5 years from now, or does it want to be like, hey, you got to graduate away from land flipping to primarily just be focused on the multifamily at that point?
Yeah. So, one principle to make a lot of money is to catch the trend, right? So, if the trend is against you, it's very hard to make money. And if the trend is, in China, we talk about this. If the trend is with you, a pig can fly, right? So, we want to be the pig in the trend. So now I'm flying, not
I
because
love
I'm smart. It's not because I'm so smart, because it's just the popularity. So I would do land flipping for the next 5 to 10 years still, and I think eventually it'll become like houses. You know how hard it is to get a house deal, and eventually land will be like that, right?
it.
And maybe I'll be homeless again after 5 to 10 years. Who knows, right? The land is gone now. I don't know what to do, right? So I think I would probably do something else by then. But still, right now, it's still the best time.
We had a question. So you got to see Pardon the Disruption live at Family Mastermind. One of our questions the week before the live episode was, what area in real estate has the most untapped potential? And I gave Steve and CJ a hard time because their answer was to work direct to agent and, have the agents bring you the houses and this and that. And I said, no, absolutely not. The area in real estate that has the most untapped potential is raw vacant land.
Absolutely.
Because it's not sexy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when I fall in love with you, that moment.
But I mean, Ray, let's be honest. This is the part of real estate that I feel like you'll never run out of a job. Like you said, hey, 5 to 10 years from now, we don't know. But as cities like DFW, if we just take DFW, I've lived here my whole life, okay? We just go like this.
Absolutely.
It just keeps going further and further out. There's no sign of that stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
why is it ever going to stop? There's more people coming. The population continues to grow. They keep trying to get to the bigger cities. At this point, we are now building large cities inside of what used to be like, hey, you didn't even go to Frisco, Texas. Now Frisco, Texas has essentially a mini Cowboy stadium where the Cowboys practice. It's got the malls. It's got the IKEAs and the Stars practice out there, and everything is now in Frisco, Texas. That used to just be country. It was just cornfields. Now it's a city. So for me, that's what I see. I couldn't agree more with your strategy. And I love how simple. Every time I interview somebody that does vacant land, you guys make it seem so simple.
It is simple.
Like, hey, we just send out direct mail and offer 50% of what it's worth.
Yeah, yeah. So only Dummy can do land. That's so simple.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, for the people that are listening, they want to learn more about you. Where can they find more about you and your journey and kind of follow along?
I have an Instagram, and the name is Virtual Flip Land. So easy. Virtual Flip Land, one word. And any questions, let me know, and I'm happy to help with a fee. Just kidding.
Oh man, I love it, Ray. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, man, sharing your journey and honestly talking about something that I don't think we talk enough about, which is flipping vacant land, specifically those infill lots. And hey, man, maybe I need to come down there and sell you some land in Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Hey, guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And by the way, I just want to throw this out there. This is the first time this has ever happened. I forgot my belts. I can't believe this. I took them to Family Mastermind. They're still in the suitcase because I took them home, right? Because I flew back in. They're in the suitcase, and I halfway through the interview, you got to go back and look at my face. I looked at the corner. I was like, I forgot my belts. So, Ray,
it's okay. Yeah, whoever complain,
solely on you because we forgot the belts.
No worries. Whoever complain about that, you have the ox. I
love it.
All
right, guys. We'll see y'all next week.